Currivan is a leading cosmologist, award-winning author, and dear friend. Both of these two are dear friends, and we love to speak about all things unity and wholeness together. And so we're looking forward to having Ervin joining us. Ervin is a world-renowned systems thinker and author of 100 books. So hello, Upshifters, and hello, One Planet Peace Forum participants over there in the room. Like, we wish we were in that same room so we could see your faces and do this live. But because we're using technology and doing this for our first time, we hope to have a real engaging conversation in this format, and love to hear your feedback and any comments, questions that you have as we go live and literally keep this in the Unity Earth TV. Please send your comments and questions in, and we'll have a lot more instruction about what these two forums are about and how you can learn about them in the future in the comments of where this is posted. So, hello, Bob. Do you want to say welcome before we bring on Jude?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live streaming session of One Planet Peace Forum. Great to have you all with us.
Yeah, it is great. And I just look forward to bringing on Jude and one of the things I'm really looking forward to, Bob, is having our participants of the One Planet Peace Forum hear your wisdom. So thanks for being in this panel with us. And let's bring on Jude. Yay, there's Jude. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Julie. Hi, Bob. Hi, everyone. Wonderful to be with you all.
It's so nice to have you here with us, Jude. And we were going to have a casual conversation, just a casual conversation with Ervin. He sent a most insightful question, a very compelling question. And if he doesn't get in the room with us here today, I'm going to presence his question because it was quite phenomenal. But let's begin with, I had an interesting week preparing for the One Planet Peace Forum, where literally people began talking about peace with me. And the first one that I thought was interesting is the three of us were in a room, and the comment was made of what's beyond peace. And Bob, you went, beyond peace, like when we get to wholeness, when we get to, like, when we achieve this unitive consciousness, and there was like, wow, beyond peace, we get to think bigger. And then I was in a Zoom room with another amazing evolutionary leader who said, what if we're on planet Earth as an Earth school and we're supposed to learn about these things? And maybe this is where we come to not have peace, so we really get it and learn. What if peace isn't possible on the planet Earth because it's our peace school, it's our Earth school? And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. I've never thought like that before. Like, that didn't resonate in my bones at all. And then there was this third one about what's beyond our efforts to create peace. And this was kind of where Ervin was coming in with us of asking us to address that. So I just want to begin our conversation, Jude and Bob, and have you both jump in. You both were contributors in Ervin's new book. Bob has it there with him, The Upshift, coming out real soon. Light on Light Press is publishing that. And you both did a chapter. Thanks. There's the Great Upshift book. And there's some themes that I read and I hear when I read Bob's chapter, Jude's chapter, and Ervin's summary. And there's three themes that I want us to just kind of muse on for a minute. The first one being, what if unity is indeed our existential reality? How does that change everything? And Jude, I'm going to let you start with this one. We began talking about that this morning, that unity is the existential reality under everything. And how does that change everything? So Jude, give us a little bit of your expertise on unity and wholeness.
Thanks, Julie. And yes, I absolutely agree. I think Ervin's question was really foundational in sort of really helping us to go beyond, above and beyond, as it were, whilst realizing we've got a heck of a long journey ahead of us anyway. For me, I talk a lot about our dis-ease of separation. And with a dis-ease of separation or perceived separation, conflict is a natural behavior. But when we literally wake up to remember we're inseparable, which is the essential nature of unity, then peace is our natural behavior. And that's not to say that unity is uniformity. It absolutely isn't. It's radical diversity. So my sense is that, there'll still be disagreements. There will still be differences of perspective. And I think that's really important and natural and healthy. I think hopefully the difference is we will not be conflictual about it. We will find ways of peaceful disagreement and peaceful celebration of that diversity. Because one of the things as a systems thinker myself, as a whole systems thinker, I know that diversity is our strength, is our empowerment. And therefore the diverse voices of everyone, authentically diverse. In other words, we're not making quotas for diversity. And I think that calls us to go beyond a perspective of unity and diversity, and even unity and inclusion, to unity and what I call belonging. And what we're finding now, the emergent cosmology of a living, evolving universe, meaningfully existing, purposefully evolving as a non-locally unified entity, a mindful, conscious, sentient entity, is that we're moving along a journey of remembering who we really are in that respect. And it seems to me that moving into the potentiality, not just of understanding this, but experiencing and embodying it, offers this incredible future that, I think we've written about in the Great Upshift. Not that we can be prescriptive about it, but align and attune with it from that perspective of unity. And I think it was me that asked the question, what's beyond peace? I think it was just to wind Bob up, actually, because I love teasing. I love teasing my friends. But, what I had a sense of, and it goes to that second, in a way, it goes to that second conversation Julie just mentioned, because for me, the Earth School is so rich, so abundant in lessons and perspectives and experience and exploration. But it seems to me that we're at a point of an unsustainable worldview of separation, which has brought us to a collective moment of choice, which of course is one of our earlier collective books. But what that means for me is essentially that global peace is almost a term test. It's like it's a graduation test for us. And what's beyond peace is a conscious evolution that could be so wondrous, so incredible, as the invitation of an evolutionary universe and its impulse to become co-evolutionary partners with our planetary home and our entire universe. So for me, that was really at the heart of why I was being presumptuous and teasing about what is beyond, because I don't feel peace is the end, and I don't feel uniformity is ever part of the game or play or whatever. But I do feel we are being invited to consciously evolve to something far greater than perhaps any of us have any real sense of now, and far greater than any of us can almost imagine.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jude. Bob, I'm going to ask you to expand on that. We've had many conversations about unity as that true nature, that existential reality of what we be. And Jude famously says, and I like to quote her often, I already did this morning, Jude, is that consciousness, mind and consciousness isn't something that we have, but indeed what we in the whole world are. And Bob, you write a lot about wholeness. The new story of wholeness is brilliant. It talks about this. You've added many contributions to this. I'd just love to hear you share a little bit more about our journey toward wholeness, and that this impulse of evolution is drawing us toward greater unity and wholeness. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, thanks, Julie and Jude. It's great to be with you here, to have another conversation on this great topic. And I agree with both of you about the real importance of Ervin's question, which we started off with. I mean, it really is more about. It's much more than just surviving the current crises and challenges we have. There's so much more beyond that we are also evolving toward at the same time. And so it's, in one sense, it's like there's one reality that many people are locked into that is dissolving, being dismantled. And at the same time, there's another reality being created that will eventually take its place. So it's about, and my chapter in Ervin's new book, which will be out in about 2 weeks, October 24th, I think, is the release date for that book, which is an amazing compendium of essays by 35 people on the topic of the Great Upshift. My chapter happens to be on our emerging unitive age. And one of the things I try to make a little clearer in that is that is a concept that involves a huge leap of consciousness. And at the same time, it really depends upon us all collectively achieving and maintaining harmony and unity in all of our endeavors. So really, as you said, unity is what most characterizes the spirit of our age, just as the 10 Commandments and the Beatitudes did for their time. So to achieve that in the time we're living now, this wider unity on a global scale in the cultural, social, economic spheres, that means living by common values and principles that assist us in becoming one human family. So unity can't be achieved. The unity that we're really talking about on the global level really can't be achieved without wholeness. And wholeness requires that another thing that we've been talking about so far this weekend too. Wholeness requires equality between women and men, balance between wealth and poverty, freedom from all forms of prejudice, harmony between science and spirituality, and protecting nature as a divine trust. So these are all unifying principles that are interdependently tied together, and that the realization of one depends upon the realization of all the others. So each one is also a prerequisite for fulfilling what really is an age-old vision of peace on earth. And the good news is that, and I think what gives me and a lot of others hope for the future, is that when we understand the nature of consciousness and also the nature of evolution, and we put those principles together, what we end up is with the realization that consciousness evolves toward unity and wholeness. This is where humanity has been moving toward forever, and it's a long journey, as I mentioned, that includes all those stepping stones. But that's humanity's spiritual evolution. It's directed toward unity, and unity of purpose is central to the evolutionary impulse. So humanity as a whole will reach its apex of consciousness when we collectively reflect on the perfect harmony, unity, and wholeness that already exists in all the diversity of creation. It's already there. We just have to see it and align with it in all of our endeavors. So unity is necessary for maintaining the wholeness and motion of all things that are. And this knowledge of a hidden thread of wholeness, connecting, supporting, and uniting all things in existence, is at the mystic heart of all sacred traditions. And it's now also the leading edge of scientific understanding. So this is what we're here for this weekend at One Planet Peace Forum, is to understand that our task, our collective individual task, is unitive action toward wholeness in motion, and that will ensure as much as possible, as much as anything, a gentle path to peace on earth. Without that, we can't say that the path to peace is going to be gentle. But with unity and expanding it on all those levels, and through all those principles that are interdependent, interconnected upon each other, our path to peace on earth will be gentler.
I love, one of my mentors always used to say, Barbara Marx Hubbard always used to say, let's gentle the birth. What can we do to gentle this birth? And we've been talking about that this morning at the One Planet Peace Forum, of hospicing the old as it's dying, and midwiving this new. I'm going to just quote the imperative from Ervin at the end of this book of what he's inviting us into. And then I'm going to reframe us into his question, because I think it's a real good, juicy place for us to just spend some time before we have to close today. Ervin wrote, "The upshifted mindset of a small group of awakened people can spread and generate a growing wave of change that would constitute a new path for the evolution of humankind on this planet." I really appreciated that quote. And he's, we're zooming in, we're streaming into the Upshift Forum, and they're talking about the same thing, of this imperative of upshift. So Ervin asked us a question that I want to just rephrase it, that I think is essential. And Bob, you just mentioned that the science is now showing us this unitive reality, that is the true nature of our existence. And we've had the spiritual wisdom keepers sharing this for thousands of years on this planet. And then we have our lived experience, whether that means we've had oneness experiences, whether we've had other kinds of mystical, transpersonal, whatever kind of experience that gives us that lived experience. In meditation, we have some meditators in the room. So that lived experience kind of rounds that out. I see them as these three circles, right? But in the center, I want to bring back Jude's quote of that we are consciousness. And we had a session this morning, Jude, talking about being the differentiated expressions of consciousness, and that's who we be. So if we are that, it goes right to what you were saying, Bob, the heart, the intuition. We have a knowing, and we embody that evolutionary impulse because we are that, right? So as we're guided by that evolutionary impulse toward greater wholeness and unity, we feel it. We just have this knowing, this gnosis, Gnosis. We have that intuitive knowing. And that's what Ervin asked the three of us to respond to, is if we tuned into that intuitive knowing, what do we believe about getting through this rocky road that we've already talked about to the other side of it? And what's beyond that? What's beyond the crisis that we're in as we all upshift? So I'm going to turn that over to you both. We have about 15, 16 more minutes to really muse into this. What does your intuition say? Your knowing, your heart. And yes, we've got the science and we've got the spiritual wisdom. We have our lived experience. Feel free to draw from any of them. But holistically, when we do, we can't ignore that intuitive space that we all have access to. So, Jude, do you want to begin?
Yeah, it's a fabulous question. And Julie, you expounded on it beautifully. I came back from London earlier today, literally just in time for this, where I was presenting to an in-person gathering of about 1,000 people. And these conversations are, of course, incredibly present, wherever we are, and very timely. And I think they're timely because not just my intuition, but everything is saying to me that this is the time and we are the change that we've been waiting for. But it's much more than that. Because what I was saying earlier, and what I say a lot, is that our universe doesn't just meaningfully exist and purposefully evolve as a living and loving sentient entity, unified entity, but it exists to evolve. It actually embodies an innate evolutionary impulse from its initial simplicity to ever greater levels of complexity and self-awareness. So it does so knowing itself through this whole journey of emergence and evolution and individuated self-awareness. So my sense is there are three aspects that I feel, and one of those is absolutely the intuitive. But I talk about the three ways in universal wisdom teachings to this deeper understanding of wholeness. One is the way of the sage, the way of the mind, the way of the understanding. One is the way of the shaman, the way of the heart, the way of the experiencing. And the other is the way of the seer, of the will, of the purpose, of the essential intuiting, of the gnosis and of revelation. And so it seems to me that all these three paths are now being co-woven into an integrated perspective. So the understanding's coming with this emergent cosmology and the evidence, the scientific evidence at all scales, and many, different fields of study of all of this unity. But also we're experiencing it. So the way of the shaman, we're coming to experience that we are indeed part of the web of life. And the traditions through the indigenous communities whose wisdom and voices are now being heard much, much more is continually inviting us to really bring that path into its wholeness and its respect and honoring. And then the third one is this whole emergent understanding of a mindful, multidimensional reality, is that we are superheroes. We have superpowers because supernormal attributes and phenomena are our natural way of being. And intuition is probably our most foundational superpower in that regard. So yes, all of the ways of knowing are coming as a convergence. The ancient ways, the leading edge ways, the indigenous ways, and ultimately the integration of our heads, hearts, and hands, our minds, hearts, and purpose into this moment, of attunement, alignment, as Bob said, to remember, to bring the wholeness of who we really are into our lived experience, and more than that, the embodiment. And that for me is the invitation of the universe, whose ongoing evolutionary impulse, I feel, is asking us to be part of it. And we can't impose our presence. We can attune and align and serve that impulse, it seems to me, that's flowing through us as a species, us as a planetary home, a sentient planetary home, Gaia, as part of a sentient, evolving universe.
I love that. And a unitive narrative invites us to be that co-evolutionary partner. I love that. Bob, I'm going to invite you to expand on this and those ways of knowing. And what would you like to add to Ervin's query and maybe even expand on it at this point?
Yeah, thanks, Jude. And Julie, again, I think Ervin's question is so relevant to us all right now. Where it's not, and this really was, he made this really clear in his recent book that came out in April, The Survival Imperative. He made it clear that it's really not just an imperative that we survive these crises we're faced with. It's also at the same time imperative that we wake up to the innate impulse to upshift the evolution of our consciousness. And that's because we are created to evolve to our fullest potential. That's what we're made for, to evolve to our fullest potential. And that's going to take us way beyond the current crises we're facing right now. But as we all know, and we've talked a lot about already this weekend here, achieving that is a long and challenging road. And as I mentioned in our opening ceremony here and earlier, there are many interconnected, interdependent stepping stones to peace that must be crossed before arriving at a truly sustainable peace. So it's much more than managing to survive the current crises. It's really about fulfilling our greatest potential to achieve race amity, social justice, gender equality, economic equity, climate justice, and local, regional, national, and world unity, all of which are necessary for realizing the oneness of the human family. And all of those are necessary to establishing lasting and sustainable peace on earth. And I think Archbishop Desmond Tutu said it perfectly when he said, God holds out an invitation to us, an invitation to wholeness that leads to flourishing for all of us. We must recognize that we are part of one group, one family, the human family. And I just want to add a couple of other short quotes that really draw that sense out and make it even clearer, that because that's exactly what the Universal House of Justice, the governing body of the Baha'i international community, has elaborated on in many of their statements. In their 1985 statement on the promise of world peace, they made it real clear about the process as well. They said, the great peace toward which people of goodwill throughout the centuries have inclined their hearts, of which seers and poets for countless generations have expressed their vision, and for which from age to age the sacred scriptures of mankind have constantly held the promise, is now at long last within the reach of the nations. World peace is not only possible, but inevitable. It is the next stage in the evolution of this planet. And one other quick quote that will express how that inevitability will really come about. They said in another statement in 2020, they really identify the source of this evolutionary impulse. They said, ultimately, the power to transform the world is affected by love. Love originating from the relationship with the divine, love ablaze among members of a community, love extended without restriction to every human being. This divine love is disseminated by enkindled souls through intimate conversations that create new susceptibilities in human hearts that can gradually take on a new form in keeping with the requirements of humanity's age of maturity. So universal peace is the destination toward which humanity has been evolving throughout the ages for a very long time. And what may be most important to remember, again, is that there are sacred forces guiding the evolution of the universe itself and all things in it, and therefore our consciousness as well. The evolution of consciousness is what will lead us to to recognize that all things are realized through one power animating all things, and that all things are the manifestation of its energy and bounty.
Oh, there's so many threads here that I want to pull on, and we have about 6 minutes before we wrap this. So I do want to pull on one thread. Bob, that was beautiful. And you just barely touched on something. So here's what I want to presence for us. When I think of the upshift, I think about the innate capacities that already exist within us that we haven't turned on, and those new evolutionary capacities that are coming in for the human species. And I was talking with someone earlier today on break after one of our sessions who said, yes, creating a new world seems like such a big daunting task, and yet it can happen like that. We watched the Berlin Wall come down like that. So I just want to presence this idea that the new world can be in we are in co-evolutionary partnership with that divine force that you're talking about, Bob, that designing intelligence of the universe that's really moving us toward greater wholeness and unity. And at the same time, because we've been in separation consciousness in this delusion that Einstein calls it the delusion of separation and not the illusion, we've seen ourselves as separate. And so in that worldview, in that mindset, we haven't even tapped our human potential. We're not even there yet. So we've got innate capacities that are turning on right now. We're watching it happen all over, and future evolutionary capacities that are coming in. I wonder if either of you could take a few minutes and maybe muse on that with me of what might we see with some of our innate capacities and how we work as a collective, that when the worldview shifts and things begin to happen, we're moving more into cooperative communities and collaboration. And yet that intuition that Ervin is calling forward in us hasn't even been turned to max dial yet. So Jude, you want to begin?
Thanks, Julian. That was beautiful, Bob. Thank you for that. I think we've really got to expand our perception to realize we're not just talking about humanity here, or human consciousness, or human evolutionary potential. And what the emergent perspective is of unity is multidimensional, and where everything is mindful. So the whole universe is wholeness in motion, is wholeness in evolutionary emergence. And we're part of that. We're on the bow wave of it. And that is not to say that our role here is not significant. It is. It seems to me that it is incredibly significant that we're here and now, literally waking up to remember we're inseparable. But we're not just inseparable from each other. We're inseparable from our planetary home, Gaia. We're inseparable from all of the multidimensional realms of intelligence and causation and loving benevolence that is our entire universe. So it seems to me, I mentioned supernormal attributes earlier on, and supernormal phenomena such as intuition is a great one. The way showers that are synchronicities are another. Neither of them violate this new understanding of reality. They're just additional expansionary aspects of its innate awareness and consciousness. And yet we, as you say, we've hardly turned the dial on any of those. But not only that, the indigenous wisdom has recognized this web of life, this multidimensional web of life. When we start to naturalize the communications that are naturally open to us, if we have ears to hear and eyes to see, and hearts as well as minds open, it seems to me we have the most extraordinarily wonderful wisdom, non-human genius and wisdom available to us to guide us. We can be students of Gaia. We've tried to impose our will on our planetary home because we've seen it as just environmental background. And as a result, we've come to this existential polycrisis in every level. But when we wake up to remember that we can communicate with the Gaia sphere, the rocks, the minerals, the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the multidimensional intelligence of our planetary home, that transforms everything. And so, this is about us together, but the together is much more than human togetherness. And it seems to me that it is about acting local, feeling global, and thinking cosmic, because we are cosmic beings. We are divine beings. We are members of a cosmos that is inviting us to join it through our conscious evolution, through our upshift. So that's a longer, bigger version, but it begins with every breath and every step and every willingness to say yes to that invitation.
As consciousness, we're multidimensional beings.
Yes.
We don't know that yet. Yes, most of us don't know that yet. So thank you for that. Bob, can you give us about 2 minutes of your wisdom in here? I know you've got a lot to say. What can you teach us?
That's perfect, Jude. Thank you for bringing in that cosmic perspective, because I think the more we all keep that cosmic perspective in mind, that's going to have an incredible impact and role in bringing us all as a human family closer together on this planet that we all share. So to me, the cosmic perspective is so essential for us all to keep in mind, as well as while we're working for, in whatever way we choose, for peace on Earth. And you mentioned another component to that process that I think that I'll just say a closing word on too, and that is about our responsibility of communicating that consciousness, that awareness to others. So that may be really what one of the main things that we've been created for. In having been created with our innate wholeness that we have as part of us, and then I've written about this in my book, New Story of Wholeness. We all end up on a journey to return to and reclaim our own innate wholeness. And as we do that, we come to the awareness that it's not just about our own innate wholeness that we're journeying toward and reclaiming. It's about the realization that we come to in that process, and then wanting to realizing that it's part of our responsibility as members of the human family to pass that understanding on to others in whatever way we can. So this is, in fact, our destiny, to come to that awareness, and at the same time, as part of that, to pass it on to others, because that's what would be the fulfillment of all the sacred traditions. As we each live into our inner potential, this will become evident. And that understanding is there and will become much more evident because it's latent within all of us.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Jude. Thank you, Ervin, for inspiring this conversation. We're sending Ervin lots of love from where we're at. We're sending all of you over in Italy that are gathering that same love. And we really appreciate all of you joining us here today. So thank you. Let's all upshift with these innate potentials. Okay. So from Elliott, Maine, and the One Planet Peace Forum, we bid you adieu for now, and really thank you for joining us today. Bye for now.